Good evening. Welcome to City of Piqua Planning Commission meeting for May 12, 2026. Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Wright?
Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Underwood?
Here. Here.
All right. Tonight, the clerk board tonight for the clerk will be Kyle because he's by himself. With that, we did roll call meeting minutes for April 14, 2026. Any changes, corrections? None?
There.
Need a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Minutes are approved from April 14th. On to old business. The resolution PC 30.
Wait, don't you have to excuse?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Sorry about that. Thank you. We need to make a motion to excuse Mr. Seas and Mr. Buck.
I make a motion to excuse.
Which one?
I thought we were doing it together jointly.
Yeah, I'll
Buck
second
and
it.
C's.
Motion second to excuse Adam and Brad. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Adam and Brad have been excused. Now on to old business, which would be resolution PC 0326, but before that, we need to untable it.
Make a motion and table.
Second. Motion and second to untable PC 0326. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, so on to resolution.
All right. So I apologize. I'm going to be sitting up here tonight. I don't have a clerk, so I'm going to be doing this. So hopefully you can all see me. Resolution 0326 is a plat with dedication for Whitetail Bend, Section 1 and 2. As you will recall, this case was tabled from our April meeting. I want to remind everyone, as I do at the beginning of every planning commission, so welcome if you have never been to a planning commission meeting, but the process that we have before us this evening is the planning commission is a body that is recommending, in this case, to our city commission for their final approval. The planning commission receives a packet, staff report, and all of the application materials from the applicant, and then they make a decision this evening, which again includes a public comment portion. So that process involves us going through the staff report, the public coming up and having an opportunity to speak, the applicant having an opportunity to speak, and then the planning commission making their recommendation to the city commission, who will hear this case at their next regularly scheduled meeting, which will be next Tuesday at their standard time. So I just want to make a note on that again. In this case and in the second case we're going to hear this evening, both of these are recommendations to the city commission. And the third case will be a special use, which is the planning commission will have the final determination on that case. All right, so with that, again, I'm not going to go through everything that we touched on at the previous meeting. I will go through a lot of it, but I'll do it quickly. So the request before the planning commission this evening is a request for a final development plan, which is in line with the approval of the preliminary development plan from November of 2024. At that time, as part of that process, the city commission authorized the number of lots, the roadway design, which includes the cul-de-sac, the fire code access road, and the overall design for the types of homes that are permitted within the development. Again, that preliminary development plan has been authorized and approved by City Commission in November of 2024. So where we are tonight is the final development plan or plat process, where there are things for consideration of that final plan and plat. As long as the application this evening is in conformance to that preliminary development plan, it meets the requirements of the city. So that doesn't require that those individual plats come before the city in a certain order. Those plans just have to substantially meet, in the determination of the Planning Commission, that preliminary development plan. So I say all that just to remind everyone that this part of the process is about the final engineered drawings. It is not about the consideration of whether or not the Planning Commission agrees that the development should have been approved in the first place. That is because it has been approved as a preliminary development plan. And so the City Commission at that time authorized it. This is the final plans and engineering drawings for that component. So I say that to note, and I'll go back through this. What is being requested is the final plat or plan for one portion of the entire development of which they were approved. So this section is now being called Section 1 and 2, but it was previously called Deerfield Section 4 and 5. As I noted previously, but I will again, what the applicant is requesting this evening is two sections. Section 1 is 42 buildable lots. Section 2 is 33 buildable lots on 22 acres with some right-of-way and open space. They are proposing two new drives, Deer Crest Way and Stage Hollow Court, both of which have a 50-foot right-of-way and meet the preliminary development plan requirement for allowing parking on the street. It also reflects a cul-de-sac, which in the original preliminary plan discussion was an approval against a staff recommendation to have that be a throughway. Through the discussion and through public comment, that was turned into a cul-de-sac and was authorized by City Commission as a cul-de-sac as part of that, and was reflected in the preliminary plan that was adopted. So this final development plan that you see before you reflects that preliminary plan approval. But there is an emergency access which connects the two cul-de-sacs, which will allow the two access points for fire emergencies. The point that we spoke most about at the last meeting, which I would argue probably was a substantial portion of the meeting, dealt with stormwater. So I will note again, because it's important, that the development was reviewed and does meet all city requirements for stormwater. There is an SWPPP available within the packet, which reflects all of the requirements that the developer has to meet all of OEPA requirements for this site. But with that said, staff also has gone back and provided additional detail. One of the major questions that was asked was where the water goes. And so you can see on the bottom left of this site is the development site. You can see the green lines. So our engineering and utilities department have put together a map that shows all of the manholes and the public water that moves as part of our stormwater system. And so the development site, as you can see, the engineered pond on that site connects to Eagles Lake Drive, the water line that's there. It goes north into the pond, and then goes north further until it crosses the road and continues north. It goes all the way up by the golf course and then comes all the way back down and ends in Echo Lake. As you can see on the south side of this site as well, there is a line that actually goes across the development over and up, but also connects to Echo Lake. I'll note that there is a small 8-inch line on part of the southern portion that was found that was put in the early in 88 or 90 to actually allow enough water to get in to make sure that Eagles Lake pond is always wet. Additionally, one of the questions was about access to that pond. So if you were to look at the Eagles Nest Section 1 plat from 1988, when the plat was approved, you will see two easements that exist. You will see an inlet easement and an outlet easement along with a maintenance easement that show that the water goes into the pond and then it is exiting the pond, both of which are in public water lines. It also additionally shows a maintenance easement that goes down a driveway, which I'm not certain who lives in 7628, but I would imagine they probably don't know that that access easement exists because we did not know that access easement exists. So we do not, the city does not utilize that access easement, but it is there. So I'm not going to go through each one of these. I want to make everyone aware, and the Planning Commission has been made aware from the last meeting, plus the emails and the different Planning Commission questions that were asked. Staff provided within the staff report, which you can see responses, or D.R. Horton and their engineers responded formally to these questions, but I just wanted to note that you can see those questions answered explicitly for each one of the questions within the staff report in the packet. So again, there were quite a number of questions that were addressed. I'm not going to get into them specifically unless somebody would like to get into them specifically, but again, I believe the applicant can speak to any specific questions that were not addressed fully in that, if you feel they are not. So again, there were about 20 questions. Beyond stormwater, just to reiterate, again, there's a cul-de-sac going in with sidewalk and mounding. There is a monument sign that is located off of Lambert, which also has some landscaping. Again, there is landscaping around the mounding. And then we've talked through the process, but this is the second phase in this process. So the preliminary development plan is authorized. It goes through the discussion about the general layout, composition, total lot count. All of those kind of things have occurred. The width of the road, all of those discussions have been approved by our city commission in November of 2024. And today the Planning Commission is reviewing whether or not this final development plan is in compliance with that preliminary development plan. So because of all of the things noted before, as we stated before, staff, based on section 724B4 and 724B5, staff is recommending approval of the request for the final plat with dedication due to it meeting the preliminary development plan substantially. With that, I went fairly quickly, understanding everyone probably has heard the majority of that prior, but I can go back to any particular section you would like or answer any additional questions you have. Otherwise, the applicant is here and can certainly speak to any questions that you may have of them, or we can address additional comments as they come.
Would the applicant like to speak?
Yes, thank you, members. Rob Smith with D.R. Horton. As Kyle mentioned, a lot of this from last month surrounds the stormwater questions, so I will let Choice One Engineering answer the bulk of those questions. So we're just here seeking final plat approval, which meets the provisions that were already voted on and approved in the preliminary plat. So happy to answer any questions.
Kyle, can you go back to the slide that had the green lines?
Yeah. Am I going the wrong way? Where am I going?
No, a couple more before that.
Not yet, sir.
Not yet. Which one do you want?
That one.
I was talking that way.
This is just the first time I'm seeing this slide and this information, so I was curious, the storm line that's identified there with the 8-inch arrow, 8-inch line to, yeah. Will that conflict with the pond? I'm trying to do my own overlay here in my mind to see.
I mean, nothing is going to change with the existing lines. This just shows existing lines. The actual development site is here, and the pond will connect into the line that is along Eagles Lake.
But it won't come near the south end, like the south of the lake pond won't
Nothing
interfere with that
nothing in
southern
these green
line.
lines will change. The actual pond is here. Well, it's actually like right here.
Okay, but the footprint of the pond does not overlap with that southern,
Correct.
okay. All right, so I read the answers to the questions that I asked, and I got to say, like, you guys, like, they were very impressive. They did a very good job of answering them and explaining the numbers that they used. And I will admit that they were a lot more conservative than they needed to be for the stormwater, or for the surface water runoff. There's just not enough room on this. My concerns were with the groundwater. That seemed to be dismissed as a concern. The question asked, what is the seasonal groundwater elevation compared to the detention basin bottom and foundation elevations? And it says seasonable groundwater elevation has no effect on the storage volume of the pond. And then the next question is, what is the groundwater elevation relative to the basin bottom? Groundwater elevation has no effect on the storage volume of the pond. And there's one other question where they said that stormwater, or that groundwater is no concern. But last month in this meeting, all the residents were vehement and adamant about the fact that it is a concern. There is groundwater. And I know that it says that you guys can't share your due diligence reports. It's proprietary information, but can you confirm that those soil borings were taken in multiple seasons, or what seasons they were taken in? Because if it was, I mean, not to state the obvious, but if it was taken in the dead of summer, it's going to be a lot drier than what it would be in the spring and fall.
Good evening. Nick Selhorst with Choice One Engineering. The D.R. Horton, the applicant, did do soil borings in the preliminary plat stage. They were done in the spring of '24. They did one report for the entire site that includes what we're talking about tonight.
So just one series of testing at one time?
Correct. They didn't do, as part of that geotech report, like a continuous monitoring type situation, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, you guys answered all my questions on that I submitted in advance, so I don't, that was my only remaining concern, was the general dismissal or lack of concern of the groundwater. You guys are still confident in the fact, like, having heard all the residents' concerns, that the groundwater?
These homes will be built on slabs. The groundwater that was discovered in a few of the borings was 10, 12 feet down. Like, that's not going to affect the home construction. The geotech engineer gave it a clean bill of health, like, yeah, this is a developable site. Correct.
Okay.
So just, and to be clear, like, Choice One didn't do that report. We're not the geotech engineers, but
You
we
reviewed them?
use that information as part of our design for the site.
Okay. You guys have anything?
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll come up as needed if you need us.
Thank you.
All right, we'll open to public comment. Remember, 5 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Good evening. Jeff Lang, 9586 State Route 66. Questions for the planning commissioners here, and also for the engineers here to my left. It involves the past histories of development out at Eagle's Nest in that same area. Does anybody, maybe out in the public sector out here, remember the controversy between the late Dan French and the city of Piqua on what was called the French Gully? Okay. We have some people who remember that. The French Gully was a big catastrophe for the French family because the water coming off of not Echo Lake, but off of Eagle's Nest in that general vicinity, stormwater specifically, went underneath Sunset and dumped onto Mr. French's property and tore a gorge about 25 foot deep, about 50 to 60 foot wide, from Sunset all the way down to Echo Lake. Now, that's considerable distance. So that silted up the back end of Echo Lake rapidly. Okay? So I guess my question is there any plans for any of this development beside a pond to have, for example, a rain garden or 2 or 3 or 20? You all know what a rain garden is. It's a recharge zone for rainwater to go back into the soil quickly. With what I saw on the development map, there's a lot of houses stuffed in there. That's a lot of roof line. That's a lot of driveways. That's a lot of sidewalks. That's a lot of streets. That's a lot of cul-de-sac. When it rains, a tremendous amount of rain, those impervious surfaces make that water run fast, fast, fast. And you're going to put it into a pond, and it's going to get into that pond real fast. It's going to exit that pond real fast. Okay? So with a rain garden, you have a chance for the rainwater to settle into the ground and permeate back into the groundwater. So I'm wondering what's going to happen here with this development that will not be a repeat of what happened to the French family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, name's Loyal Davis, 2104 Eagles Lake Drive. My question basically is for family. I have a family, my son and daughter, have 4 kids. There's no place in Piqua, 5 bedrooms or anything. We've looked and tried to keep them here, and Piqua didn't happen. They end up going to Troy because they have the homes. Are we building 5 bedrooms over 4,000 square plus? But that's my question, is trying to keep families here, not letting people leave and head south or north. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Andy Berner, 1910 Eagles Lake Drive. I want to start off, it seems to me, whenever you go into something, you got to have a plan. And you all well know what a master or comp plan is. It's intended to guide communities as they strive to provide places to live, learn, play, and work. In this case, Piqua. Well, preserve the past as you empower the future. The process to obtain a plan guided by citizen input to help a city commission is both intuitive and informed. Goals, strategies, and even steps to monitor that progress are crucial if we're going to develop to be a greater community. Sounds familiar to you and city staff? It should. That was the straight out of the beginning, first couple pages of the 2007 plan at Piqua, which is the most recent master plan. And that updated the 1970 plan. Before it, each addressed our needs and desires for a better Piqua. The plans both focused on strategies that included housing, economic development, transportation, streets, Lambert Drive, and they stressed, they both said that housing was a primary concern. There were about 7 concerns, housing one of them. And it both stressed they have to be refined by public input. I think that's just a given. You get up in the morning, you put a plan together, you better have public input. The city's going to spend $200,000 this year and next year. The RFQ that they put out to companies that are going to guide us through the master planning this year and next year indicated $200,000 would be spent. In fact, it said in 2025, city administration stressed the necessity to do this because of the projected development around Piqua and to have a vision for growth and development through 2040. It's not even 20 years. You're getting smaller before the next one's done. The two plans examine housing, but I do not understand why this current plan of Horton's builds out that last, and I know this is to some extent a moot point. We're building out the last large area that, whether you want to call it R10, which it was zoned that way before November of 24, or executive housing, and those are the exact words used in the plans. If we're going to have a vision of growth through 2040, I just don't. This is the last big space where we've got R10 available, and it's now going to be abutted by entry housing. A development company is supposed to make money. Board of directors and stock price insist on that. However, implicit in that is a manufacturer, a plumbing company, a printing business. They all have to be a good citizen. They will cease to exist or move if they can't put together a good product on the market. And that includes housing. This is important if we're going to abide by the desire, demand to be a better city, to excel. We need to have a developer who builds a good home and is a good citizen. They need to play well with the other children, if you get my drift. It appears that the company has had but one meeting with the public, and that was at the chamber. And I'm puzzled a little bit as to why it took all that time since the rezoning in November of 24 until now to get something going where they had access, or they had something with the HOA on Deerfield for their retention pond. It's been stated a couple times, the city staff didn't participate in any of these discussions with Deerfield HOA. I don't know. So staff couldn't even answer the question. What was offered to them to accommodate the residents? I don't know. Another question of mine, and I'm going to wrap it, is land use. Comp plans charge the city, this is in all plans, responsibility to utilize resources well for our citizens and businesses, but they must be informed decisions. It's finding a variety of styles and types of home prices in the neighborhood, which will strengthen our identity, create new opportunities for the residents, to find housing. It's sort of a housing diversity, I guess. I want to briefly touch on the subject of retention ponds, and I guess I will. There's this HOA that's going to, at some point in time, Horton's going to hand off the ponds to the HOA that's involved in Whitetail. However, what if there is none? A lot of times, HOAs dissolve because nobody pays the dues, nobody cares. And it just goes. So what happens if it just sits there or ignored by unfunded dues? Does the city take it over? Or does it just go undeveloped and turns into another problem for someone? Both plans talk about housing much the same. I talked about executive housing. In both plans, I can quote you the pages. It says the big need in Piqua is executive housing. Those are the words in the comp plans. Not mine, not anybody, executive housing. And granted, we got to attract others, having some amenities here, but we need to step up our reputation. It really is. We get hit with a lot of negative stereotypes, and one negative takes a whole lot of positives to resurrect. And unfortunately, that housing and what they've done to bring it here, and that is provide no considerations to help the people that already exist here. It's not going to help that. Furthermore, I would caution that this, I caution that we've not, the public has had very little input to let Horton know, unless I was not at a meeting that was, anyway, and we haven't had sufficient dialogue as to how we go about doing this in a thoughtful, positive manner. I'll close by asking the question that I did, and I think you did better. I'm sorry, I better skip over that. Some answers in the April PC questions in that 121 staff report that you guys had to plow through have been answered. However, I hope that this meeting will be streamed a little more quickly than the last one. The last one wasn't streamed until, for whatever reason, until about 6-7 days, last Wednesday, I guess. At any rate, people need to see this. Nothing's been communicated prior to the public prior to this, and a lack of communication to others outside the city walls, some unwarranted and some warranted, suspicions by many in Piqua. We don't need that. Credibility issues, killing efforts to make progress. We need most all want. We do not want to be steamrolled by a housing developer that has not shown that they work with the community and sell entry-level housing. It's their word, entry-level. Thank you for your patience. I really do appreciate it. I want to urge the commission to pause before rushing hell-bent into a recommendation to the City Commission. There's still a lot of questions that you're going to hear from people from our community about that. The staff report has been out about 6 days. I plowed through till I got to the middle of the charts, and I'm not an engineer, and I was lost. But the other stuff is really important. It affects, we need to have people understand the development's impact on the existing neighbors, and not just in the immediate area. As Jeff mentioned, Mrs. French, those properties. That pond, or Echo Lake, is silting in at an incredibly high rate, just as our little private pond is. That's silt, and Francis Pond, same way. These are our water sources, along with the river. Excuse me. So, please don't burden us with something that's snuck in before intelligent and deliberate 2027 comp plan has been completed, and there's been adequate public input as to what we want, where we want to go, and we can all live with that as well as possible. This, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Good evening, TJ Manson, 6 Eagles Way. First, I would like to start with the new developers. Mr. Smith from D.R. Horton still has not contacted Eagles Lake HOA, nor has anyone from the city about dumping all 80 acres of water into our privately owned lake in our backyards. Side note, the packet that was released on behalf of the city also noted last meeting that Mr. Smith claimed that it confirmed that the water will be dumped into our lake, even though he said it was not. During the last planning and zoning meeting, you heard from one Piqua resident in particular, Mrs. Tinkler, whom was one of the original developers of Eagle's Nest. She stated and was very clear the Eagles Lake was not designed nor developed to hold that much water, runoff water. It was to hold only the water from roughly 125 homes currently in Eagles Nest. I would also like to reiterate that the Eagles Lake HOA met April 12th, and it had a unanimous vote that we do not want their water into our lake, which you can see very clearly that it goes from them into us out the back. The new development should have to run their water to 185 Creek. Eagles Lake Homeowners Association has sunk roughly $50,000 in 4 years into the body of water in our backyards to correct years of damage that shouldn't, and we should not be responsible for the aftermath that this development will put into our lake. That leads me to my next concern. Once the development's finished and goes back to Texas, who will be maintaining their ponds? Do you think that the homeowners that are looking for entry-level homes can afford a maintenance on something to upkeep like a pond? Who's going to walk around that pond and pick up all the trash and the waste that pours into it after each storm? Who's going to maintain after the homeowners if they fail to pay? Will this be the city's problem? Will these ponds be privately owned or publicly owned? Who gets sued if someone drowns? At the last meeting, which you already answered, Mr. Underwood, at the last meeting, Mr. Underwood stated he wanted more information from D.R. Horton that presented to look into it again from the engineers. I was just wondering if you got the information, which you said you have. Eagles Nest is very concerned about also the spillway that's on the plat, on the information. Is the city going to force our community into a flood zone? Lastly, I would like to close with letting the commission know that we are not against growth and development, like Mr. Smith stated from D.R. Horton at their last meeting. We are against doing business with a company, and their representative won't put themselves in our shoes. Listen to the Deerfield and Eagles Nest residents, and most importantly, storms out of a public meeting furious because he didn't get his way. Deerfield, Eagles Nest, and Piqua deserve better. Thank you.
Can I ask him a question?
Sure.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You're the president of the HOA?
I am the co-chair of Eagles Lake HOA.
Okay,
yes.
one of the things that I brought up was there's a stormwater management facilities maintenance agreement covenant that could be developed, and it's a legal document that requires developers to maintain at their cost systems that prevent their new development from negatively impacting the drainage of the surrounding area. Would that alleviate any of your concerns or issues if you had something like that from them signed?
From the meeting that we hosted,
Pardon?
from the meeting that was hosted on this topic, we don't want them in our pond at all, period. They can run.
This is just if there's a situation where you are being flooded, they would take care of it.
But how do we know that's going to happen?
Because it's a legal document.
But I don't know. I mean, I'm a hairdresser, not an attorney. That's all I can tell you. So, or an engineer.
I'm just trying to find a way here that, we can help you.
I love you researching. That's fantastic. But I would hope that if a legal document is in place, then they would have to do that. But I can't see that.
I would hope that the city would do this for all developments going forward.
Are you going to help
this kind
us?
of thing.
I mean, again, so the same we would have for any pond that exists within the city. If it's owned by an HOA, the HOA has the liability, the HOA manages the pond. In this case, again, as we found, this pond has public rights to part of our stormwater system. So it is not just designed for the 100 homes. It's designed to be part of the west side stormwater system.
According to Mrs. Tinkler, that is not true.
And again, and I can't speak to what she knows. I can tell you that from our engineer's review of that is what the design is, which you see here.
But according to the information we received, they're willing to do that, to make that legal document.
We have not received any information.
But I'm just telling you, from our questions up here, they've been willing to do that, and it seems like that would alleviate a lot of your concerns.
Are they going to talk to us about that?
Well, if there's a legal document, I imagine they would have to.
Well, I'm going to have, I mean, before the HOA would, I cannot speak on this. It's going to have to go back to a meeting, and we're going to have to vote on that also. Like I cannot answer for us. We have to do that as a whole. There's 8 homes on that pond that we all love it, and I have been there for almost 4 years, and I worked my butt off to make that thing beautiful again. And the last thing I want to do is all my hard work and all of our money go down to the wayside. And I hope you guys would understand that. I think you do. Good? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Roberta Webb, and I have lived at 605 Lambert Drive, going on 21 years in the wonderful neighborhood of Deerfield. I'm here to ask the Commission to take a closer look at D.R. Horton. The word has gotten out that D.R. Horton and Deerfield are still in negotiations on the water issue. No. As of September the 2nd, in a vote 5-2, Deerfield's HOA voted that D.R. Horton could not run their water into our ponds. So whoever started that rumor is mistaken. D.R. Horton will have to run their water in a different direction. And according to that map, it looks like it's going, I don't know where. It seems as if D.R. Horton wants to make the new subdivision sound like it's a part of Deerfield. Perhaps I'm mistaken, but I was under the impression that this development would be its own entity. They wanted to join Deerfield's HOA. We said no. They wanted to put the water into our ponds. We said no. And now we hear they want to use the name Whitetail. We already have a street named Whitetail in Deerfield. So what happened to that separate entity? This is one of the largest home builders in the country, but size doesn't guarantee quality. Public records show repeated homeowner complaints in multiple states involving construction defects, drainage and flooding problems, foundation concerns, delayed and disputed warranty repairs. Right now in Florida, there is a federal class action lawsuit over deceptive home sales and financial schemes. The Better Business Bureau complaints include reports of structural cracking, flooding from improper grading, and ongoing issues that were not resolved in a timely manner. We homeowners in Eagles Nest and Deerfield are still concerned about the water issue, street size, plot size, and quality of materials used. When a builder operates at a very high volume, the concern that is that speed and cost control can outweigh quality. Speed and cost control can outweigh quality. That risk doesn't just affect the home buyer, it affects the entire community through infrastructure issues and declining neighborhood standards. There is no comparison between Deerfield and the new subdivision because the quality of homes will not be on par with Eagles Nest or Deerfield. We worry about a crumbling development bringing down our property values and fear the houses will become rentals. That will be risky for us if and when we decide to sell. I'm not asking you to reject growth. I'm asking you to require accountability. Our communities of Deerfield and Eagles Nest deserve development that will add long-term value, not short-term volume with long-term problems. We need extra oversight, not blind approval. Thank you.
Good evening, Yvonne Wyan, 1016 Westview Drive. Matter of fact, our yard butts up against a retention pond. And again, I don't see any kind of a buffer for our 3 lots back there. And Deerfield and Eagles Nest residents are not opposed to development in Piqua. We are opposed to building just to be building. Mr. Higwin stated back in the fall that Piqua needs to be competitive with Troy. I think we can agree with that statement. However, it's the way this is being done that we are opposed to. If we want to be competitive, then we need to offer people what is needed and wanted. So far, we are losing people because this isn't being done. One of the problems areas is housing. We need more executive, empty nester, and second step housing. Planning, as far as the Planning Commission, there are long-term goals in place for Piqua. However, since the rezoning of the farmland bordering Deerfield and Eagles Nest, some of this long-term planning has been taken away. Why is it that we have to accept what D.R. Horton wants and not what is truly needed in Piqua? Why, as our Planning Commission, you couldn't have told D.R. Horton this is what we need instead of accepting what it wants to build? Would this not be considered planned growth and not just growth? If you lived in either Deerfield or Eagles Nest, would you want this subdivision in your backyard? We discovered that these homes could qualify for federal loans. This has the potential of bringing in rentals, which could impact our values, property values. And again, D.R. Horton stated that there would be an HOA. Well, how many entry-level subdivisions do you know with an HOA? I don't think I've heard of any, and I've lived in entry-level housing. So how would you plan to take care of the pond if there's no HOA? If all we have are entry-level housing, does that not give the impression of stagnation and not upward mobility? Yes, we want growth, but we need planned and controlled growth that reflects the needs of the citizens of Piqua, not a builder who is willing to develop and walk away. We also need to think of how fast we are losing the valuable farmland. Planning Commission and Mr. Hinkleman, we don't mind being competitive with Troy, but at what cost? We do not also need to look down the road to see how this will impact Piqua and its citizens. Lastly, if this goes through, will you have buffers between our residents, our lands, and the pond? And when do they propose to put in the pond? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jean Heath, and I live at 2204 Eagles Lake Drive. I usually don't come and do too many comments up here, and you guys have been doing a great job, and I've really appreciated everything. I'm not an engineer, so I don't understand the water, storm, and all this other stuff. I'm a nurse by profession, so I care about people. I care about this community. I love all these people here. We're here for a purpose because we care, and we love our neighborhood, and we love where we live. And I know you guys understand that. I'm not going to stand up here and belabor everything that you've heard, because for 2 meetings now, and a lot of information has come to you about why we're questioning it, what issues we have, and the facts that you guys see. I'm not here to dispute any of that. I'm here because my property sits right there next to it. I want to look out my door and see a house that looks like mine, or that's in the same kind of range of where I live, like you guys live. I am so proud of this city. I'm so proud of you guys. I love the fact that Nicklin is going to go and provide that area where you're going to build houses. And I heard later, when they're done, it's going to look like the neighborhood. How cool is that? And we're building all these things in town. I think we're doing a great job. My ask for you, because you're my ears, you're my eyes, you're the ones that are really paying attention to what's coming in, please prayerfully consider what we're putting back there. I don't want in 5 or 10 years from now to have issues, water issues, or all this other stuff that we're talking about. I don't understand it. But I do care about where I live, and I care about my neighbors. I love Deerfield. I love Eagles Nest. I think it's a wonderful community. We need more houses like that. I want to be able to look out and see that. And D.R. Horton, they may be fantastic. All this stuff, there's lots of stuff out there about them. But if they would come and say, we're going to make our 10s and 20s, and we're going to put some houses that look like your house right there, and then we'll keep building and building, and they're all going to look like that. That's what I want. That's what I want to see for our city. I know there's a lot of money we're talking about. It comes down to a lot of money. And so I'm asking you not to keep thinking about that piece, but think about what is going to fit up there. You know, Helen Keller said, alone we can do a little. Together we can do a lot. And I think you, us, this whole room in this city and our community, we work together and we put the right houses in the right spot. That's what we need to do for this city. I really respect you. I think we're doing a great job in our town. I don't care if we're competing with Troy or Sydney or anybody. We need to do what's right for us. And I'm asking you, my personal ask, consider what they're putting there, have them come back with another plan that shows our 10s, our 20s, or whatever we need to put there to make our neighborhoods look like Deerfield, look like Eagles Nest. That's what I'm asking you. I don't want to lose property value. You don't want to lose property value. But we want to do the right thing. And this is falling on you. So supporting me, supporting the community, I'm asking you to seriously consider what they're suggesting. Thank you.
Good evening, Wayne Davey from 5 Peregrine Place. So I didn't have anything precisely prepared, so bear with me here. I think generally speaking, if we saw this zoned RE10, you'd see probably everybody here trying to figure out how to make this work, right? We all would be your volunteer staff. We'd be doing some extra things. We'd probably have a little committee that goes out and tries to figure stuff out at the margins. We try to work with the county. We try to figure out where the tile is. We'd ask farmers what their plans are for the next 20 or 30 years. We would probably be helping, right? But because we do not see that vision, we're sometimes reverting to some technicalities to say, you know what, let's hold this up for a minute. Let's check the technical stuff. And while we're looking at the technical stuff, let's look at the overall plan. It's kind of how we do it in society. I get it. So I want to see a subdivision. I want to see development. I just happened to look at the topographic map that is, just west of the subdivision. So if you go out about 5 miles or so, because I was curious to see what the elevations were as it rolls into the new subdivisions. So if you look at the topographic map, just southwest of Hartzell Field, there's a line, I don't know, I'm going to guess, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles long, running from southwest to northeast. Kind of just hits on the outskirts of the Hartzell Field, and the elevation is 1020, okay? So I kind of looked in, and I want to see, if I was going to look at some water at the surface, tiled or no tiled in the farmland, where would it flow? Well, it's going to flow in about a 2 to 5 mile swath southeast towards where the subdivision is, and at a pretty good rate. So if you go just north or just west of the new subdivision, it's 988. I'm just guessing a couple miles or so, maybe 3. So from 1020 down to 988. When we get to the drive by Mark Wyans' house, it hits about, his house is about 962. The bottom of the berm is 957, so he's got a few feet, but the bottom of his basement is well below that. And then it kind of pans out a little bit, and you get to the lake by TJ's house, and it's close to, 959. So it starts to slope out right there. So you got I think you probably we probably have some data to check to figure out if anything is coming in, right? So just for some data points here, in the packet it did say the staff said that it does have verified data showing, the staff report said that it does not have verified data showing growing stormwater concerns and that the project meets engineering standards and EPA requirements. I trust that's true. That sounds good. But two rhetorical questions would be, does it meet actual conditions and external problems that could enjoin and that could pre-exist, which have a reasonable probability of detrimental impact, which is kind of what we're hearing? And did the city attempt to obtain, and did it obtain data in the negative that shows that there are no topical and underground water flow concerns? So I mean the negative. Is there a negative data out there that says this is not an issue? The lack of data does not mean, positive data in the affirmative. So just if you do a little research, Ohio is seeing a growing number of disputes and litigation where developments technically comply with engineering standards, but residents later experience flooding, groundwater, or drainage impacts that were underestimated. So all we're asking is evaluate the environmental things coming in to see if these things are planned properly. So for example, Mainville, Ohio, and Warren County, 2026, Avon, Ohio, 2025, Fairlawn, Ohio, 2019 to 2021, Big Darby Watershed, 2025, although that was kind of a big expanse, but we're kind of seeing is issues in parts of Ohio where the greater impact around was not considered the smaller thing going on. So that's kind of on the technical side, but I think we all want this to work out, and I think we would help if we kind of saw the vision, it kind of lined up with what the lady before me said. So thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mike Yanesi, and I'm here with my wife, Sue. Our address is 14 Eagles Way. I think we own that lot that Mr. Henkelman was in reference to, and I'm certainly aware of the easements. And Sue's not doesn't enjoy this kind of limelight, so I'm speaking for her, a rare occasion. But I do want to comment before we begin about the change in tone of our city staff and our city volunteers. The commission level, if you were to go back and view the last two city commission meetings, the staff interacted, answered questions. It was cordial. It is incredible. I'm not sure what spurred that on, but the staff, the volunteers, the commissioners feel the sense of us getting back to working together. And so we need to publicly acknowledge that and thank you for that. I will address Mr. Henkelman just on one item, and I like you. But let's...
You don't have to preface it with that. Tell me what you feel. It's great.
Let's agree to disagree on this. Sure. You have this meeting, before we even started public comment, I can't count how many times you've mentioned that all this has already passed, and all they had to do was, well, I happened to be at that commission meeting a year and a half ago. If you were there, you might be the only one that walked out there thinking that, because I still remember Mayor Lee waggling his head on a 3-2 vote with frustration that he had a room full of citizens and D.R. Horton, and there wasn't any easy answer. So his comment was, we're going to let it go back to the drawing board, and it was not a done deal. He tried to appease the citizens and D.R. Horton, and that's why it came down to 3-2. It wasn't as definitive as you might have presented it. And maybe you weren't at that meeting, and maybe my memory's not so good, but whatever.
It was, I think that's a fair assessment, absolutely.
Yeah. So, before I begin, let me explain that I'd like to share an illustration with you, and then a perception that I don't think has been brought forward and talked about much at all, and it's a positive one. So let me start with the illustration, and it will be at my expense. So in my last high school year and through college and years beyond, I was pretty much living on my own, and I was pretty handy at in the kitchen and could fend for myself. And I'd watch TV, and I'd see this commercial come on where they're offering this gadget that would cut up vegetables. And it was a clear, like, dome and a plunger on the top. And I thought, boy, that's pretty clever. And I saw that commercial a few times, and I thought, I'm going to buy one of those. So I get on the phone, call them. First thing the lady says is, well, it's not just $9.95. You got $3 shipping and handling. I said, I didn't know that. She says, well, it's in the fine print on the commercial. Well, in those years, as a 19-inch TV was about all you had. Since that time, I think the authorities have required advertisers to make those letters a little bigger. So she was right, I was wrong, paid the money, and waited the 4 to 6 weeks. It shows up, I come home from work, there's a package, take it inside, put it on the counter, and open it up, had some vegetables in the refrigerator, so I get them out, and I'm thinking about this commercial, and they used a bell pepper, I think they used a potato, onion, there was carrots sitting over here and some other vegetables over there, and boy, they just whipped away. And so here I go. I get a bell pepper out, and it won't fit in this container. I thought the container would be a little bigger. It looked bigger on TV. So I cut it in half and chop it. Then I do the same thing with an onion. They must have used a small onion because I couldn't get my onion underneath there. Cut it in half, chopped it. It would have been nice if they would have put a note in the box that said, don't use this, but on a plate. Because there's my Formica countertop all cut up with these blades. I thought I was safe because it was a rental, but I didn't get my deposit back because of that. So was I frustrated? Did I think I could call that company and complain? They didn't lie to me. It was my perception. The wording was in there. I saw those carrots on the commercial. It would take Charles Atlas to push that plunger down hard enough to cut through a raw carrot. So I felt duped. I felt foolish. Life lesson. So time went on, and as you might expect, those sharp blades that are coming down now on a plate, they got tarnished and a little rusty, so I just threw it away. Lesson learned. Horton coming in with their product, and I have some concerns about that. Not sure I could read all their fine print. You know, back 50 years ago when this happened to me, I wish there was social media that had some reviews that might have tipped me off, at least to put a plate underneath the thing before I started banging on it. But there wasn't. So I learned from experience. So I'm out bicycling last night through Deerfield, and I stopped. Older lady, of course I'm older lady's working in the yard, and we chit-chat for a while, and she says, you know what, about this development, I think we ought to ask that Mr. Horton to put a COVID mask on before he infects Deerfield, Eagles Nest, and Park Ridge, and get him out of town. And while we smiled at that and chuckled, Piqua, I assured her, has a touch of class. The people here are great. They truly are. There are some naysayers that we always got to deal with, but the core people in Piqua are awesome. And they're not going to handle the situation in such a manner. So we've been dating Mr. Horton now for probably off and on for 2 years. And it seems like we've gotten to a point where maybe we ought to update each other's contact information and go our separate ways. It just isn't a bright future. And you can sense that in the room. You can sense that with Horton. They're frustrated. Piqua's frustrated. So let's have a little class about it and excuse ourselves and move on and date other people. We're okay with that. So now I'd like to share with you a perspective that hasn't gotten much verbiage. And I will speak of that international company that is putting 2 huge state-of-the-art buildings south of our town, Washington, Farrington. And that company's going to bring in some jobs, 50 jobs. That company's also going to bring in some support companies that they need to operate with. So here we are, knowing that company is spending $50 million, not on the buildings. They're spending over $50 million to get our utilities down to that corner. Piqua couldn't afford to do that, but this company can, and that was part of the deal. And they're doing it. So here we are. We've got another substation down there, water, sewer. We got all these utilities down there. And going to expand the roads. Both Washington, Farrington. So let me remind you of the plan that the highway system has to widen Interstate 75 to 3 lanes beyond Troy up through Piqua to the Shelby County line. And let's dial back our history a little bit, thinking that there was a time when forgive me, where's the airport located? Shout it out. No, I'm sorry. Dayton Airport.
Yeah.
Vandalia. There was a time Vandalia was a bedroom community of Dayton. It experienced the growth. And next thing you know, up the highway it comes to Tip City. And they experienced a boom. So on it comes to Troy, our county seat. And don't you know, it's coming right through Piqua. So we are close to 70. We're close to an international airport. We're getting this highway. We have got utilities right down there where that land is. And we're going to see growth. And if there's one thing I've heard in the last 50 years, we want jobs. We want good paying jobs here. Well, by George, I think we're going to get it. Whether we want it or not, it sounds like we do, I think we'll not recognize that interchange because of the commercial, the industrial growth there. Well-paying jobs, some earn more money. So I want those folks to consider Piqua. I want those that earn more money to consider Piqua. When this was voted on by the City Commission to change the zoning, 2 points here. They changed the zoning before D.R. Horton's proposal came up. Had it been reversed, I doubt that the zoning would have changed. So they only changed the zoning down to R6 to get in to listen to Horton's presentation. It's not a done deal. In fact, if you make a recommendation tonight at all on this topic, it might be, well, stick your neck out. Rezone it to R20. Put in a gated community where the houses start at $1 million and go up from there. Is there another place like that in this area? No, I don't think so. That might be a little aggressive for Piqua. But taking it from R6 to R10 might be our sweet spot. Do we want those new jobs, their families living in Piqua, going to our schools, playing on our softball teams, worshiping at our churches, eating our food, being part of the fabric of Piqua? You're darn right we do. We've got to give them a place to stay. When the City Commission zoned it R6, that wiped out any average or above size lots. So we've got plenty. In the recent expansion, we have plenty. In fact, there's 17 places I could live if I wanted an entry level or if I wanted to rent. There's that much development going on in this town for that kind of housing. We've satisfied that. But are we going to discriminate against those? We've never done that before. Those that earn more money and want to live here and maybe lift the fabric up. I don't think we want to be accused of that. So where do we go? Back to the city. You're the only one from the city here, so I'm going to look at you and explain why we are so proud of you. You think back to when we had a hotel out here at the corner of 36 and 75. The city found a way to deem that to be demolished, and they did. So once that's done, we could have put anything there. It could be a fireworks store. It could be a nightclub with a stage. It could have been a gas station. It could be an adult bookstore. But no, the city managed to court those 2 restaurants and that hotel. And people around this town have been asking for an Olive Garden for years. Georgia City made it happen. So let's go across the street by the gas station. Next to the gas station is Long John Silver's. And in between there is a little patch of land that a medical dispensary wanted to put a building on. And the city helped them. Why? Because they pay an inordinate amount of taxes to our city. So what problem did they solve? Well, you couldn't very well enter that lot from 36. They talked with the gas station about joint entry. That wasn't going to happen. So, city relaxed some interpretations, and by George, they've got a road right to their medical dispensary, right off of Looney Road, and to their place. This city has done incredible work. The staff, they can work magic. Now, why do I mention that to you? One, we ought to be proud of them. 2, this land was designed for residential, average and above. No shame in that. So the people that own that land, Craycon Builders, they were a primary builder in Eagles Nest, the builder in Deerfield, got to the age where they wanted to slow down, stop building, and let somebody else carry on their vision. Nothing wrong with that. What Craycon did for this town and what that family has done, they are stalwarts of Piqua. Over the years, any positive initiative they were a part of, quietly or visibly. So here they are. They got this land for residential. And here we are with a great city staff. There has to be, just like finding money to tear down this building across the street for a parking lot, there has to be some aquatic issues out there that are funded by state, national government. Perhaps to take care of the groundwater, there is funds available to build the original, from the original plans, the original ponds. With much less density, I suspect Deerfield may welcome the connection. Maybe there's grant money for infrastructure, for new development. Is it possible that we can cut a road in there and stub the utilities in to jumpstart that project? Anything's possible with the crew that we have in this building. So I thank you for your patience. Hope I didn't embarrass Susie, as I so often do, and appreciate your consideration. But by George, you're allowed to take care of this issue here, and we thank you for consideration.
With that said, we'll close public comment, and the applicant want to answer any questions?
I just want to speak to a few things that folks brought up, if that's okay with you guys. Mr. Wright, you brought up the operation agreement thing.
Right.
There are other cities around the state that require something like that. Usually that's recorded with the plat. It's standard language. Like I don't want to speak for them, but I don't think that's any kind of like big deal. Like they would do that. It's like a covenant restriction. You record it with the plat for this land. Here's what is agreeing to, and that's between the city and the developer. So I think that could be a condition of approval. Yes, that is very common in other towns. It's just
And I think
not
it should go
required
forward.
here.
I think it should go forward on all plats that are brought here. Kyle?
Yeah, so we would have to change our code to have that be an obligation, but we certainly can look into that and bring that back for your
Sure.
consideration.
I'd like that.
I know people are concerned about the runoff, but the water from this site, which is 22-ish acres, not 80 acres like some people were claiming, drains to Eagles Lake now, okay? We're outletting into the public storm sewer. So I know they said they held a vote like we're not going to allow that. It's where the water goes now. Our pond, which corrals, our storm system corrals everything to this wet retention pond, which has water quality benefits. The only number that you really need to know is the pre-development 100-year rain event. There's about 48 cubic feet per second of water running to Eagles Lake, okay? 48 CFS. Our pond, when it's outletting the 100-year storm, after everything's developed and everything routes to the pond and it sits there and it slowly goes out the 24-inch pipe, is outletting 6 CFS, which is almost a 90% reduction. So this concern about creating another gully, that has nothing to do with us. Our site will contain our water and outlet it at a lower rate than pre-development, period. There's a lot of talk about the zoning. The zoning is in place. Like, this is not a zoning hearing. So this is an RE6 parcel being developed with RE6 lots. Like, that's, like, I was at the other meeting, the previous meeting too. The way I took it when the mayor said that, you know, you could come again is, that's tonight, right? Like, we had to come back for the final engineering approvals from the boards. So that's how I took that. It's not that the zoning is still up for discussion. One more thing, the statement and questions about the maintenance of the pond. I find it a little disingenuous that they would imply that these fine people that will buy these homes somehow can't afford their HOA dues, but they can. The same thing that would happen to this pond if they didn't have an HOA would be the same thing that would happen to the Eagle's Nest pond. So I just want to say that.
Can I ask how many times did your company meet with these, and with the HOA here since the last meeting?
Sure.
Yes, thank you. We did have an initial meeting, as has been described. I have spoken with some folks after previous meetings. I have always volunteered. I've given my card to anyone who's asked. I've given my email address, my cell phone number. I've offered to meet anybody wherever they want. Meet for coffee. I've offered to have them come out. We have several surrounding communities: Troy, Springfield, Huber Heights, Clayton, New Carlisle. We have so many communities nearby in a short driving distance. And I've offered to meet them on site. I'll introduce them to our sales folks. I'll introduce them to our construction superintendents. They can walk a partially finished house. We stand by our construction. I've offered to meet. So this idea that I'm like elusive and not willing to speak with anyone is completely untrue. I will speak with any of them. The gentleman who implied that, I spoke with him at length in this room early on in the process and agreed, you know, I agree with you, Eagle's Nest should be cul-de-saced. If you recall, city staff, their recommendation was to have that connect into this community. We agreed to cul-de-sac that. That came out of what was then seemed like a positive discussion. So the same person who I had that discussion with in this room now makes it sound like I'm like hiding and evading. Couldn't be further from the truth. So I want you to know that that is my position. I have given out my cell phone number, my email. I'll meet you at Starbucks. I'll meet you on your back porch if you want to. I'll talk with anybody. Okay? So I want to make that very clear. I'm glad Choice 1 was here because I'm not a civil engineer. I'm glad they were able to answer the technical questions in that matter. The last thing I will say, there's a lot of talk about entry level. I'm not a fan of that term. I'm not the one using that term. That's not coming from me. It's a subjective term. We believe these homes will sell between $300,000 and $400,000. One man's entry level is another person's forever home. Okay? So I don't like that term because people can afford different things. But the median home value today in Piqua is $148,000. The average home value today is $215,000. So these homes are well above average for the city. So we are here to fulfill the preliminary plat, which has already been approved, and we believe we do that. Again, this is a final plat hearing. I know a lot of folks are not happy with the way the preliminary plat vote went, and that's their right to feel that way, but we are here on a final plat hearing.
Yeah, any questions? I have one question for Choice 1. Now, I see that they have that the water go to Echo Lake Drive. Is it possible to go to the south instead of going to Echo Lake or Eagles Lake Drive? Was it the pipe smaller or something?
Hi, I'm Tyler Toby, Choice 1 Engineering as well. So none of this current water goes to that south pipe. That's why we are going to the pipe on Eagles Lake Drive. All of the water from what you can see up there where that development site location is drains east and gets into the catch basins on Eagles Lake Drive right now. So our goal is never to change watersheds. We always want to put it to the same place that it's going to now. So in this case, it's on Eagles Lake Drive. That's a good question.
Thank you. Gentlemen, anything else?
I'm just hearing from both sides that nobody contacted each other.
It's final plat no matter what. You can go ahead, sir.
I was telling him that I have a couple things to say if they were done. So one, Mr. Lang brought up the rain garden. I'm not familiar with rain gardens, but I did want to hear what you guys had to say about that.
Rain gardens are another water storage, water quality feature. A retention pond meets anything that is required by the OEPA. Like, it is a preferred method.
Yeah, and I did see that it is over-engineered, we'll say.
Yeah, anytime you're in an existing neighborhood, you know, you're sensitive to that, right? So it's better to be cautious. And that was our goal. So not only do we release that low rate, our, you know, the water level in that 100-year event is still 1.8 feet below the top of the pond. Like, there's a huge amount of freeboard, factor of safety, whatever you want to call it, with this.
Yeah, I did want to make sure that that was foot stomped. That in the event of a 100-year rain event, there's still 1.8 feet of pond left. So that's important. And then there were a couple people, just to address all of the issues of the types of housing on that. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave you hanging there.
No, you're good. Stand up there awkwardly too long.
Yeah. Essentially, that ship has sailed. We have already reviewed it and approved it. As Kyle mentioned, it is R6. It's not going to change. Well, I don't want to be so finite. But also, just the concept of the free market. Like, we can't dictate the free market. People buy, or company buys the land, they get to choose what they build on that land. You guys have strong opinions about what you would build on that land if you owned it, but they also have their opinions. They do, and they've stated in last month's meeting that they've done analysis on what the market wants. So they're building to meet what the needs are of the community that they see. Is it RJ? Is that right? Yeah. TJ, I'm sorry. I got one letter wrong. I also want to point out that I think Kyle even added that even though you do not want, and you guys voted to not want the water into your Eagles Nest Lake, like he said, it's part of the city's stormwater plan. It's, you own the property, but they own the water and the easement and the rights to add water to, take water out. So unfortunately, that's not necessarily something that, even though you feel strongly against, it doesn't violate any sort of thing that we have standing to do anything about. Also briefly, I want to touch on Mrs. Heath's concern about property value. I actually did a bit of research on this myself, and I'm no appraiser, but what I found was that it shouldn't affect the property value of Eagles Nest, because it is completely separate housing community with a completely separate entrance. And the word vibe was used, completely different vibe. That their neighborhood's going to look different than your neighborhood, so an appraiser, when looking at home value, is going to compare the homes in Eagles Nest to homes other places like Eagles Nest. So the adjacent housing community will not drag down, should not drag down your property value. However, I did have a couple concerns about, but frankly, the groundwater evidence is stronger now than during the meetings that we had when we decided to rezone it. All of the citizens' concerns about the standing water, the water all year round. One woman even mentioned that if she goes out to dig a hole to plant something in her yard, there's water in it. I can't in good conscience just ignore that. So while I don't see obvious grounds to claim that the detention math itself is bad, like the pond is great for runoff. I do see reasonable grounds to question whether the groundwater conditions have been substantially evaluated. For this amount of density. And that's another thing I keep coming back to is how dense, how many houses are going to be in that small area. So the roofs, the streets, all the roofs are close together. That lower density a lower density may be better fit the site's drainage limitations. The current record may not adequately establish that the site can support the smaller density without creating chronic drainage and groundwater impacts. Please.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
Can you elaborate what your concern is with the density versus the groundwater table, please?
So without
So the groundwater table is recharged by water percolating into the ground. So if you're concerned that the groundwater table is too high and everything's too wet, we are adding impervious surface, which creates more runoff. It does not trickle into the ground. It sits in the pond, which has a clay liner, so that it doesn't necessarily go back into the groundwater. So if anything, this site improves the groundwater issues. Like the groundwater is recharged by water percolating into the earth. And as you've heard, the concern is that there's too much impervious area. Well, that's what the pond is for. So I don't see how the groundwater issue, which the geotech report said is not an issue for building homes on this site, I don't see how it can be claimed that this is going to make anything worse.
So less homes and more ground, more dirt, more grass wouldn't improve the drainage?
If anything, that would allow more water to trickle into the ground. Like, I feel like the argument is backwards here.
I hear you.
From a groundwater
Yeah, I'm
standpoint,
just
if you were
trying-
talking about surface runoff, I 100% agree with you. More density, more rooftops, more pavement, more runoff. But again, that is all very much taken care of by the retention area and how all the storm runs to it.
I'm just trying to reconcile my concerns with like your statements.
Sure.
And I don't like that we're put on the spot in this moment to decide when I want more information. Kyle, what are the voting options?
So Robert's rules would obligate, since this has been tabled once, that you would need to make a decision this evening. You have a right to recommend approval with conditions, or recommend denial to the city commission for their final approval, of which they have the ability to accept the recommendation, modify the recommendation, or deny the recommendation.
He asked what I wanted more information of. I want to better understand the conditions that the adjoining neighborhood is experiencing and how that's going to impact, or how would that not carry over into this neighborhood? And if a less dense neighborhood would alleviate that. I'm hearing that from their engineer that it's not a concern. I would like more time for the city's independent engineer to consider that. So I'm going, go ahead, Mr. Yancey.
When I gave my address, I wanted to be up here as a citizen, not necessarily that homeowner, but indeed, that pond sits on my property as well. And it does look good. I've had some issues with it. Built the house, I'm going to say in 1994. 2 months after we moved in, it floods. Thank goodness I had a good insurance agent. Took the sting out of that, but my basement flooded. And the thought of channeling more water into that pond, we've managed that pond now. I don't see that disrupted. Nowhere have I heard anybody say, oh, we're allowed to push water on your land. Well, I don't think that's true. You might own the piping that goes to our yards, but you don't own the water, and you're pushing it out onto our land. We actually own the real estate underneath that pond. It's different than most detention ponds, retention ponds. Those are neutral properties. All of our lot lines go into the middle of this pond. That's our land that we all covet, and we take care of that pond. We've managed it with the current runoff, but this piping in more and the density is a matter of concern. And I think this body does have a right to recommend changing the zoning back for the good of the community and the neighbors. But the community needs prime land. We're on this eve of great jobs. Thank you.
Our professional plans were reviewed by staff and by a third-party engineer, who I believe is here. So I don't know if she wants to speak to the groundwater thing, if that helps, so that you don't think I'm just making stuff up. But I don't mean to.
I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that you were.
Sorry,
I wasn't aware you were here. I'm sorry.
I'm Nancy Toby. I'm a civil engineer with Access Engineering. I was asked by the city to review the plans submitted by Choice One. According to your city regulations, you need to detain the 100-year storm event, and you can only release, I don't want to get into the weeds, but release the critical storm event. Choice One has met those, and in fact has done more than what they needed to for this development.
Is one soil boring at one time a year adequate to base all these calculations on?
I understand it was taken in the spring. Is that correct? That's usually your wetter season.
Okay.
Anything else? Well, either way this goes, no matter what, it still goes to city commission. So we vote yes, it goes to commission. We vote no, so it goes to commission. So either way, whatever we decide, it still goes to city commission next week, like Kyle said earlier. But like I said, we can't change the zoning in any houses that's been approved already.
So I also have, unrelated to the drainage, it was brought up last month that the plans the conversations that were had was that there was going to be a mound, a barrier put between the Westview houses, is it Westview? And the new development. And somehow, somewhere, that mound, that barrier, didn't get put on the plans or dropped off the plans. I'm aware that when we talked about it months ago and approved the plans, it wasn't there.
Are you talking about here? I don't know if you can see my, wait, this is what you're talking about? Or are you talking about here?
South of the pond.
Here?
Yes.
Yeah, that property line.
Okay.
For the homes on Westview, between them and the pond.
The commitment at the preliminary plan, if you go back and look at it, is the mounding around the cul-de-sac. And the property line you're speaking of has an open space where there could be plantings put for sure, but there was never a mound shown on that preliminary plan.
And what you're saying is you want to see a mound? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that I've been told.
I don't think a mound there with plantings would be something they would disagree to. I think that's doable if you want to add that at this time. Like, we're leaving some of the existing vegetation there to screen. You could get rid of all of it, put a mound in, and then plant new. I think either way works, but that is something that could be accommodated as a condition of approval, like the operating agreement thing. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. We don't mind doing that. I believe if it's the spot we're thinking of, there's already existing vegetation there. We wanted to leave as much of the existing as can. That's the best screening you're going to get. But to the extent there is not there today, we're happy to mound the same way we're proposing along the new cul-de-sac by Eagle's Nest. That's not a problem.
The woman who lives on Westview is raising her hand there. I'd like to hear what she had to say.
Yvonne Wine again. Our house, there's like 3 of us that are going to be butted up against the retention pond. And I did ask in November about some kind of a buffer because we don't want people coming on our property, and having trash and all that kind of stuff. And it was proposed that they said, yes, they could work with us, but we've never heard anything. Nobody's ever contacted us. And, our property's right there. They could have called us just as well as we could have called them. But anyway, we asked for a buffer of some kind, either a mound of something, so that we don't have people coming on our property. Not that we don't want to be friendly, but we don't want encroachment.
It's understandable.
Okay, thank
Ma'am,
you.
I'm sorry, what was your name again? Sorry.
Yvonne Wyan.
Thank you.
Mrs. Wyan, do you happen to know what your property is zoned? Is it
R10.
It is?
Yes, we're in Eagle's Nest.
You're-
Matter of fact, we're one of the larger properties there. It's almost a 3/4 acre.
Did you say you're on Eagle's Nest? West?
We're on Westview.
Okay.
Westview, yes.
Okay.
We're
that
the
is
one
part
that
of-
kind of goes like this, yes.
You, I was confusing Westview with, I think Wilshire probably. Sorry.
Jeff Lang, 9586. I referenced when I first got up here about the French Gully. Mr. Underwood, don't you have property on Franz Pond?
I do.
Okay. The subdivision to the west of Sunset between 36 and Park Avenue, what's the name of that subdivision?
Say it again. I was thinking about compass directions. Describe it again.
West of Sunset between 36 and Park Avenue, the older subdivision that's in there. That all drains into Franz Pond, okay? And you firsthand have seen what resulted in the back end of Franz Pond, all the erosion of all the lots, of all the houses off of Covington Avenue and off Maplewood and off of Sunset. And they come through 2 giant culvert pipes underneath Sunset. And you've seen the massive amount of erosion on all those people's backyards west of Franz Pond, and you've seen how much silt is dumped in the back end of Franz. In the back end of Echo Lake, all that soil of Mr. French's, those woods, full hardwoods, 40, 50-foot tall, caving into a 25-foot deep ravine from all the water running off of Eagle's Nest and all those ponds. If those ponds are clay-lined, they're certainly not going to run back into the groundwater, but they're not going to slow down either. If you keep on bringing more impervious surfaces in there, that water is going to eat up things. You're not slowing it down. Just because you have it in a retention pond, it slows down some of the energy, but that water is in there and it's going to go to the next pond and the next pond, and then it's going to go to a culvert pipe somewhere and it's going to dump into the back end of Echo Lake. Franz Pond, Echo Lake, the Piqua Hydraulic Canal, and Swift Run are all connected in one of the raw water sources for the city of Piqua. The city of Piqua has on their website a source water protection plan. It's 22 pages, adopted by the Ohio EPA, rewritten by CDM Engineering in 2008-2009, and then redone again by the Ohio EPA just recently in weeks. I suggest that all of you, especially you three, all five of you, review the source water protection plan and look at corridor management zone and emergency management zones and look at the whole map of all the city's waters. Because what's issue here up in these two subdivisions and this development is going to impact your source water protection plan and your drinking water. So when you have silt in the back end of Franz, the back end of Echo Lake, and the back end of Swift Run is mainly agricultural drainage. 7.5, 8 square miles. It's silting up fast. Echo Lake is silting up fast, and the water that people are referencing that should go north and underneath 185, that's the creek that goes through Echo Lake Golf Course. Does anybody remember the SWIFT grant from 12, 13 years ago? Do you remember what that grant did? It allowed a contractor that's approved by the Ohio EPA to come in there and put in meanders into the stream along hole number 16, going to the green from the tee box to hole number 16. 1,100 foot got meanders put in because it was channelized. You could step off the green on 16 and go 8 foot straight down. That's how much the topsoil was eaten away. Those meanders were put in there, native grasses were put in there, tree saplings were put in there to slow the water down. And that's the creek that goes under 185. Okay? Guess what the city did with their contracted golf course management firm? They cut all the trees down, what the SWIFT grant put in. 10-inch, 12-inch diameter sycamores, cut down, laid down. The reason? The golfers could not see the green from the tee box. Honestly, when I called the Ohio EPA and the coordinator of the SWIFT grants and asked him, what happened here? The Ohio EPA said, well, they're not allowed to do anything to that area for 3 years. After 3 years, it's the city property, they can do what they want. Does that make any sense to anybody? That's our Ohio EPA. Okay?
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
And Jeff, real quick, there was repair done to the French, what do you call them, the French ditch, the French gully. The city did repair work.
What?
The city did do repair work to
Yes,
the French
did.
gully in the past.
Yes.
Did they do the same thing to put in the meandering streams and the trees and the deep
For
rooting?
Dan and Margaret French, after Dan raised a lot of cane about it, at the east side of Sunset, where that drainage pipe is, they put in a bigger drainage pipe. I think there's 2 of them in there now. As I understand it, and I haven't seen it, Dan said they put in a vertical drop pipe. Big one, straight down. Then laid it horizontal and pointed it to Echo Lake. Put a lot of riprap at the output of that pipe at Echo Lake to slow the water down even more. Then filled in dirt all over the ravine that was open. And that was to solve that problem.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, so
like I said, we're past this to going to the city commission, so.
yeah, it's just I just want to vocalize the situation the three of us are in, where all your concerns are valid, that we hear them all. But you're bringing up very broad scope questions to a committee with a very narrow scope. What's done's done. Downstream stuff, I don't know what we can say or do about that. Like, nobody gets the silt. Nobody understands the silt issue better than me. So I guess we could recommend that So I'd like to make a motion to approve with recommendations. A recommendation for the mound that we just discussed, the barrier between the two, Westlake and the new community or development.
At what scale are you anticipating that? If you could be specific, it will make staff's life simpler.
4 to 5 feet with the shrubbery. Man, I can't say that word without thinking of Monty Python. I'd also like to recommend a reconsideration of the density and a downstream study to evaluate what the silt impacts will have on one of our sources of drinking water, Echo Lake, specifically behind the French property.
So I would ask that you detail the second item in that more clearly. Again, to be clear, and I guess I want to be clear with the public as well. I mean, you don't have the authority to to change the application request by the owner of the property. So the owner of the property is asking for a final development plan. That is the only component that you can authorize. You have no ability to change the zoning. You have no ability to change the preliminary plan. Both of those documents have been authorized and approved. You have an ability to comment or to obligate that final development plan to be different in the way that you see fit. But again, the number of items, I just want to be clear, the zoning, the number of lots, the road widths, all of that has been approved as part of the preliminary development plan. So again, you can make that recommendation. I'm not sure how we can hold that obligation upon the applicant. But again, I mean, you can make whatever recommendation you'd like. I just want to be clear on what we can and cannot enforce in this request that is before us today. So I've got 1, mound and buffer being bigger, 3, downstream study of silt impacts. Both of those I think we can certainly manage. Is there a way to say the second one in a way that we are able to?
Yeah, so a recommendation to reconsider the density for the purposes of stormwater management, creating more ground buffer, I don't know how to better put all the things I'm thinking into words. I'd like to put it in the commission's court and to consider those things.
Okay, those 3 items.
And they may not be able to do anything with it, but it's there.
So we got a motion, got a second.
Do you have any other recommendations you guys want to add?
Not that I know. I mean, everything's been covered. I mean, do you have anything? Okay, so Mr. Underwood has made a motion. I'll make a second to the resolution PC03. Will the clerk call the roll?
I'll add one more recommendation. To do an evaluation of this development's ability to channel water into the Eagle's Nest Lake.
Explain what that means. Evaluation of development's ability to
So you said the city can do it. Mr. Yanis seemed, and TJ seemed to think you can't. Just.
Oh, of the ability to do that?
Yes.
Sure, okay.
I'm good.
Very good.
So there is a first and a second. I will call the roll. Mr. Wright?
No.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye.
Motion PC03 has been approved.
It is a recommendation for approval to the City Commission, who will hear this case next Tuesday in this room.
Show up next Tuesday with all these same concerns. They have a broader scope.
I get paid.
Do you want to take a 2-minute recess?
So if anybody's leaving, you can go ahead and leave now. But
Kyle.
all right. Where are we?
Ready?
All right. Resolution PC 0726.
Is on the table, so if there is a motion to take it off the table?
Need a motion to untable resolution 0726.
Make motion.
Second. It's been motion and second to untable resolution PC 0726. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution PC 07 has been removed from the table. Untabled.
All right, Resolution PC 0726 is a case that we also heard last month. It is a zoning map amendment or a rezoning case for property within the city boundary from AG Agriculture to SRM. This parcel is about a 5-acre parcel. Currently, it is vacant farmland. It is adjacent to some store and locks. It is south of Piqua Clayton Road and the Deerfield subdivision. Within the comprehensive plan, this location is located as considered district, which is part of the R.M. Davis kind of industrial, light industrial district, is what it is intended to be. This specific location, as you can see, the applicant is asking to rezone the property into SRM, which is our residential multi-unit subdivision, or zoning district, excuse me. And the applicant is asking to do so to be able to build a development which includes 36 townhomes, over 9 buildings. As of now, those would be rental units. And the applicant has provided a preliminary plan showing the potential development on that location with 2 ponds, as you can see. As we went through this case at the previous meeting, the case was tabled. The majority of the discussion around the case or the rezoning request was concern, again, about stormwater. So staff did provide a map similar to the last case, had our engineering department look into the site, and you can see the actual stormwater for this site goes east, it goes north onto Sunset, and then goes continues east in the as I'm not going to term it the same way as Mr. Lang did, but the same stormwater flow that we talked about at the last case going towards Franz Pond. So that is the information that you have before you. Again, the applicant this evening is asking for the rezone. They are not asking for the final plan, which is would come back, in front of our either it would be an applicant an application, just a straight application to our community services department for the construction of the buildings if they meet all of our standards. Or they would be, splitting lots or doing things that would obligate them to come back to the Planning Commission, the City Commission for future approvals. This stage, they are just asking for the rezoning into the use. So traditionally, we would not look into stormwater or things of that nature because that is a final development plan concept, as we've dealt with for the last hour or so. about a final development plan. This is at the preliminary top level where the engineering, all of that is not completed yet. So the applicant does not have engineered plans that show how big of a storm pond or where that water is going to be managed. As part of our process, that is not standard. We would not ask someone to have fully engineered drawings before they were approved to be able to go forward with a development. As you can imagine, on private land, when a developer decides they want to invest money into a private piece of land, they do so with risk. And so as part of the way that our process has been built is to allow someone to take some risk, but not be obligated to take all the risk. So an example would be if a developer came forward and was asked to provide fully engineered plans for a development site, and then they were denied, they would be, out a lot of funds for somewhere, or a lot of time for that matter, for a development that wouldn't move forward. So processes were created similar to what we're doing this evening, where you can rezone, you can have what's called an entitlement of the zoning, which allows you to have the use approved, but none of the buildings, none of the other things approved yet. And so then in the future, all of those will come back and get approval very similar to any other development that we have within the community. So when looking at this, what is before the Planning Commission this evening is the zoning map amendment review. So the zoning map amendment actually has a specific section in our code, section 7.2.2.e.2. If you're bored, you can read them all, but there's A through G sections. We've gone through, as we did the last meeting, and talked about each of those and how those are met with the request that the applicant provided. Again, from a staff's perspective, our task is to provide the data in the process to the Planning Commission so you can understand whether or not it meets these standards. As I noted last time, all of the standards that are obligated under our code for review are met, which is why staff is recommending approval of the zoning map amendment. If there are any specific questions that you have about the request, the application, I can certainly try to answer them. The applicant is here as well and can certainly address any questions you may have of them. And we still have Nancy is here still as well to talk about our review and how we go through our process if and when it gets to the point, in this case, that there would be some review on our side. Is there anything else I can answer for you? Otherwise, the applicant is here, or whatever else you'd like to do.
Could the applicant come forward?
Yes, sir. Good evening. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Thank you.
Could you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Paresh Shah. I'm 2612 Fiesta Drive, Troy, Ohio.
And if you just want to give us an idea of what you're trying to achieve with
Sure,
this.
yeah. So we were planning to put about 36 units. So as you can see, each of those buildings going to have 4 units. It's a 2-story buildings. So it's going to be 9 and the pond on each side of that. So that was the original plan that we have submitted as a preliminary proposal for the approval. Thank you.
Only real question I got, I know it's not, this ain't the done deal, but does it really need the detention ponds there?
Again, we can't answer that.
I mean,
we can't answer that until it's fully engineered. So what the next step would be is if they were rezoned into this, they would be allowed to have SRM zoning, which allows for multifamily. The look and the design of what they are proposing today has no bearing. There's no obligation for us to allow them to do any of this. They have to meet all of our codes. So that part of the process, when they come back, they will fully engineer this and determine exactly what that building looks like. I can't tell you that this meets our parking codes. Our planner will look at setbacks, buffers, landscape requirements, stormwater, utility connections. All of those components come at that part. So to answer that question, I don't know that we could today without knowing all the other components, and the applicant doesn't know all those things because this is a very preliminary drawing, just to give you an idea.
small scale, bigger pond, but when we did the houses had a similar, maybe smaller sized pond, but it seems like overkill to me. But I know it's preliminary, but
It certainly could be. I think that I would imagine, and I won't speak for the applicant, but I'd imagine when they get to the engineering phase, they will build the ponds as appropriately sized as they can to assure if there's more land for them to utilize, they would probably do so, I would imagine.
Any public comment?
Good evening, Jonathan Wessel, 1820 Eagles Lake Drive. So first off, I appreciate the applicant's willingness to invest in a property here in Piqua. Obviously, housing is in need in the city and in the county, so very supportive of that. But since it was brought up, Kyle, could you go back to the slide that showed your green line for the stormwater? And I just more of a curiosity thing for me. So what is shown, I'm assuming, is a stormwater line that runs underneath High Street, running from east to west, and then it goes down Sunset, and then I'm assuming that goes into an open culvert or creek. Is that what's
That is
shown?
the pipe that Mr. Lang noted. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but it goes into an open ditch, if you will.
So then the question I have is, I believe there's been some talk about doing some utility work. There's been a number of like water main breaks along Sunset and High Street.
Correct.
So as part of that kind of plan in the next 12, 24 months, are there plans to do something different, maybe better with stormwater management coming from the west? And I ask it just because I'm assuming that this is not the first time we're going to see some development opportunities on the west side of town. So if you could
Sure. So
speak
to answer
that.
that question,
Thank you.
it's a good question in terms of the overall investment on that. Although the water that has broken, obviously, stormwater doesn't go into the water pipes, but the water pipe needs replacement. The city now is in a cycle, which we are very fortunate that we are now in a cycle where we are with an OPWC, which is the Ohio Public Works organization. We are trying to get a grant every single year, every other year, which they're generally $500,000 to $700,000 a year for a project. We anticipate the Sunset project to replace a lot of that utilities here in the next year. We're hopeful to be out with that for the utility portion of that. So that's water and wastewater, not necessarily storm. I know that there are some outlets there that would be part of that, but I am not the expert in that. I would certainly defer to Kevin and our water department, our underground utilities department, what they would be looking to do with that project. But to your point, I think it's a fair one. This is infrastructure that's in the ground. It needs to be sure. We need to be sure that that infrastructure can serve the potential development that exists anywhere west of that. And so we will review as part of the approval that infrastructure and assure that that happens. We'll have our engineers confirm that through calculations and documentation. I can't tell you today. I can tell you this is where the water would go. That's as far as I can probably tell you. I don't know that I can tell you today that we have capacity for X number of whatever. I think we would have to look at that. Does that answer your question? Ish? Okay.
All right. Anybody else? Good.
I have some questions. And this has nothing to do with this. This has nothing to do with your application. It's a learning process for me because what Mr. Lang, you can sit down. We'll talk to Kyle and the engineer. Can you tell me your name again? Nancy. I'm sorry. I don't want to just keep calling you the engineer. So Mr. Lang.
You're so much more than that, Nancy.
Jeff Lang brought up some very good points about the French Gully. Very good points. And so I'm trying to take from that and learn from that about what we can do, what this board has the authority or ability, or if we have the foresight to see that coming. And this is a situation where we can see that coming. So right now, today, the question is, can it be rezoned? Great. But bigger picture, if we want more engineering than what is more stormwater retention than what is code or what the city, the minimum that the city has in place, what can we do about that?
You are already asking everyone to detain the 100-year storm, which is what is typical of most regulations. According to the EPA, if you touch more than an acre, you have to get an NOI permit. When you're doing that, you also have to treat for water quality. So that's an EPA regulation. So you are going to do both water quantity and quality, according to city regulations and EPA regulations.
And the bigger picture, to put that into context, and I think it's important, and I think what you're trying to get at here is the planning aspect of it is how do we manage maybe the growth that we're not certain about, right? And so I think that's where, and it's not to put this on the comprehensive plan, but we are intending as part of that process to have utility reviews. We have some water and sewer capacity reviews, but stormwater we don't have a lot. And so those would be engineering studies we would do to reflect, look, if we're going to develop properties to the west of town, these are how many we could probably do based on the capacity that we have. If we're going south, we're going east, we're going north, whatever it is, those are the kind of conversations we're going to have as a city. Again, if we want to grow, we have to agree that we're capable of it, and then we have to make sure we have the infrastructure in place to be able to actually achieve what we're saying we want to do. I can tell you right now, again, we don't have something that says that we can't manage this water. I would also say that we don't have something that says we can manage this water. I think, to Nancy's point, we have policies and procedures in place, our own and then the Ohio Environmental Protection, that obligate us to do certain things, and that will be met, period. We will meet those requirements, and if we come to the point at some point in the future where we want to change those or add more, we'll change them and add more. I doubt at any point, we're not even allowed, but we're never going to reduce those requirements. We're going to always add more. I mean, the quality has been an interesting addition to the quantity. It used to just be how much can you have in a pond, and now you have to really think about how slow you let go of that water, because when it leaves, it has to also now have a quality component to it, which requires settling. There's a whole thing that's now newer. I don't know how that's 10 years old.
So the thing I wrestle with is that issues keep coming to us, and we're just in this box. We have these blinders on, we're looking at just this. And where his application for this is a great idea, this is a great area for it, he should be able to do this. But zoom out, that water needs, if the city's going to say yes to this, the city needs to be able to control that water, slow it down, re-engineer that. So I happen to know that outlet is a mess, and it is destroying, just washing away people's properties behind them. There's a house on Maple, I think it's Maplewood, where the guy had to spend over $100,000 rebuilding his backyard and his driveway because that creek has just washed everything out because water comes in too fast because we're developing to the west and we're not slowing that water down adequately. So, yeah, he should be able to do that, but the city should fix that, or the city should have the ability to say, slow down, or yeah, if this commission approves this, then the city should be able to say, then contingent upon us doing X, Y, and Z to that drainage ditch. So I don't know what ability I have to do the latter part, but the former part, sure. So I don't know. That's probably
I think to that point,
much bigger conversation than
what I can say to that point, at least from the staff perspective, is Mr. Lang noted a couple things about that. I'm not familiar with that. I will get familiar with that. We'll make sure our staff looks into that. We'll do what we can do from a understanding the problem perspective, right? So we then, from understanding the problem, will have to come up with solutions. And some of that may be, again, we don't have regulations that require certain things, right? And that's the challenge that, you know, from a staff perspective, and a lot of people who come to these meetings, I think they want staff to require these things that don't exist. That development code is what we have. And if it's in there, we require it. And we'll tell you that it's required or it's not. But if it's not in there, we don't require it. And so what I'm hearing from you in a lot of the conversations is we need to add some new requirements or some different requirements that maybe protect the city a little better from some of the impacts of these decisions. Totally understand that, and I think that is a valid conversation to have. We probably just need to find those problems, find solutions, and then find ways to have our code reflect those solutions.
Yeah, just like Kim likes to bring up broader picture questions to us when we have a narrow scope. The question to us is, can we do this? And often we're being asked, should we do this? So this is one of those, like, should we, can we? And I hate to put this on you because it's not a you thing. It's just me trying to figure out how to solve bigger picture problems. So I'm sorry for my tangent. Thank you for the information.
So with that being said, we have a motion for resolution PC 0726.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and second to approve resolution PC 0726. Clerk, call the roll.
Sorry if we scared you.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Again, this is a recommendation to our city commission, who will hear it next Tuesday. They are the final body.
Do we have to be here next Tuesday? Or?
If you can, we would love it. If you can't, understand, but we would always prefer an applicant be available if there's a conversation to be had.
All right. No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, all of you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
With that being said, resolution PC 07 has been approved. On to new business, resolution 08-26.
This is a resolution to approve a special use for personal service at 319 North Main Street. So as I noted kind of at the beginning of this meeting, if anybody can remember that time, this is different than the first two cases that we heard. The first two cases are recommendations to our city commission. Special uses are authorized explicitly by our planning commission, so they are the final determiner in this case. What is being requested this evening is a special use for a second floor at 319 North Main Street. It is currently zoned DSX, which is our downtown shopfront district. It is a multi-story downtown building with a commercial use on the first floor. So when we look at this, we're trying to understand, I guess, what the request is, and under the development code, they're obligated under 3511 to get a yoga studio approved, which is what they are asking for, even though it's on the second floor. So the DSX district in general is intended to create kind of a pedestrian-oriented environment, have different mix of uses, whether that's retail, restaurant, offices. Second floor units generally are more office, similar to this type of use. So when we look at this, we have to again go to our code and we look at 723F of our development code, and it has a number of items that we need to consider. It actually has 6, and if you look through those 6, staff has provided you, we do reflect that all 6 of those, well, 5 of 6 of them are a yes and 1 is a non-applicable, to recommend approval of the yoga studio on the second floor of 319 North Main Street. But we do request that there be some conditions on that, that the use is in substantial conformance with the application materials and site plans submitted, that all applicable development code standards, including building, fire, and health codes, are met, and that the applicant obtain any required building permits prior to opening their location. with that, if there are any questions that you have of me, is anybody a yoga instructor out there? I don't know that our yoga instructor is here, so I can answer anything that you have.
What's the first floor?
319, I don't recall. Yes, correct. Yep. You would,
way
yeah.
off.
I should have just looked at you.
Any questions? Anybody in the audience have any questions?
Within the packet, you'll also see imagery of what they're looking to do for their yoga studio.
Well, with that being said, make a motion to approve resolution PCO 8-26.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve. Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Resolution PCO 8-26 has been approved. And with that, we have other business.
Last item. I'll be quick. I promise. I know it's late. I just wanted to update you, as I'm going to do every planning commission, about our comprehensive plan process. So we have interviewed firms. We are looking to select a firm in June. So we are hopeful at the June 2nd City Commission meeting is where we will bring forward a contract for authorization from City Commission to select a consultant. And then we are hopeful that we can turn that around quickly. And then it says June, but it's not going to be June. It's going to end up being July. So we're hopeful that in July we can begin that process. I will tell you, the interviews for the firms was really interesting. Some of these companies, they really focus a lot on public engagement. And at least our staff is really interested in making sure that we find ways to get to people who are not active in our community, who want to, understand where they're at, not just, each group. We kind of want to get every group that we can. So I think the group that I think that is going to score the highest, or that it looks like is going to score the highest, I think they're going to do a great job to have us kind of get out and understand this process. So it's going to be a great thing for the city of Piqua. That's all I've got.
Well, with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to second and adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye.